With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple at the earliest stage, then Channel Check truly is the orchard. The listed companies support Channel Check, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for Channel Check so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the Virtual Roadshow series presented by Channel Check. This Fireside chat features John W. Gibson Jr., CEO of Flotek Industries, NYSE ticker symbol FTK. Joining John is Michael Heim, Senior Research Analyst for Noble Capital Markets, a FINRA-licensed SEC-registered broker-dealer. You can find Noble's research on Flotek on channelcheck.com or by clicking the link in the description. With that, I am pleased to present John and Michael.
All right, thanks, John. Thank you for joining us here. I hope this can just be as casual as possible. First time I think we've had you on one of our programs, so there's probably some people that are not that familiar with Flotek. So why don't we just start out with a very basic question and tell us a little bit about your company.
Let's see if I can give you an elevator speech on us. We're in the chemistry industry, and we produce chemicals and based upon about 160 patents in our portfolio, focused on green chemistry, so non-toxic, biodegradable chemistries for the oil and gas industry so that drilling can minimize the risk of contamination of water. We also help with the reduction in waste and the reduction in any chemical use that might be detrimental to aquifers and water in the industry. We also have digital chemistry so that we're able to measure the actual molecules, and particularly in liquids and natural gas liquids while flowing. So our industry is based on measuring API, which is the gravity of crude, and that would be take a gallon of it and weigh it, and then you just take the average weight of it. Instead, we're actually able to tell you every molecule that exists within that gallon, so we tell you how many of which change you have. So we're changing the industry. It's really fantastic to see what it does in the midstream industry, where they need to know when a batch changes in a pipeline from gasoline to diesel or diesel to jet fuel. We're able to measure that for them in less than 15 seconds so that they can minimize mixing and maximize profits. And so it's a very successful product line doing the sensorification of midstream with molecular sensors.
So if we talk about the subsidiaries, we really two divisions with maybe three product lines: the energy technology, the professional tech, the cleaning, and this new data analytics you talked about a little bit. I want to go back to something you said, talking about being more of a green company, and specifically talking about the energy technology. Give us a little bit more understanding of what makes what you're doing greener than what other people are doing.
Certainly, and thank you for poking me there. I did leave out one piece. In our chemistry division, we do industrial chemicals, solvents, degreasers, disinfectants, and sanitizers. We do it with the exact same people, exact same equipment, exact same facilities that we're handling oil field chemistry, so there's no additional cost. We really only have a couple of people in that product group selling those, and we've signed up a large number of salespeople to represent us, manufacturing distributors. So we'll have hundreds of people selling that product line, much in the same way that the big guys do, like Gojo, Bijon, Clorox, and others. We're using their same indirect sales model. And so we're pretty excited about that. It's a minimization of cost for us and maximum upside. Okay, but now your question was more to, Michael, can you repeat it once more? Since you triggered me forgetting. So what?
Well, you had mentioned how Flotek has an emphasis on greener applications, and I was just asking you to give a little more details on how that works, especially in the energy technology division.
Well, it's interesting. When I joined, we were a chemicals company that had a history of being green, but never sold it as green chemistry. They really tried to compete on performance, and the reason for that is customers did not buy green chemistry. And so it's only been in the last year or so that we've seen the adoption of green chemistry accelerate. And we still have, I'll say, a phase delay, because we're seeing C-suites that are extremely excited about sustainability, the reduction of liability to aquifers, the improvement in chemistry for use, so it is biodegradable and not toxic. But the buying at the bottom hasn't gotten there yet. So we have chemistry that would have made a difference a decade ago, makes a great difference today when sustainability is a part of the objectives of our customers. And we have a particular skill which they value now, and we're selling as a service. We can evaluate their chemical portfolio, what they use across their company, and tell them how to migrate from the chemistry they're purchasing today to similar priced chemistry, but chemistry that has far better sustainability, so that their green score, if you looked at the Sustainability Accounting Board standards or any of the groups that are trying to establish those standards, we can help them migrate to less carcinogenic, less toxic, biodegradable chemistries, even in areas where we don't have a product to sell. We're able to help them do assessments and scorecards.
So this sounds like obviously a positive. Why isn't it a easy slam dunk? What do I want to say? What feedback do you get from the customers that don't want to switch over to your product?
Well, in many cases, we're still in that transition where the buyer is incentivized by profitability and continuing to use your current Rolodex. And so the mission of sustainability hasn't gotten transmitted all the way to the wellhead. And so they can, getting change management in, when you're saying we're going to move to ESG, we're moving to sustainability, their focus has been on, particularly on water and methane, and not on chemistry. And it's actually the lack of realization that your contamination of water is through the chemistry. It's not the water. Nobody cares about water. What you care about is what gets into the water as a result of the additional chemistries that you add. And so we're having to work them through. Don't think about how much water you produce. Think about the minor components in the water that you should be managing in order to improve the sustainability of your solutions and retain that social license to operate. And so we're still in sort of shifting that. And even the sustainability accounting standards look at water production, and you go, wow, that's not what you should be measuring. You should be measuring what's in the water and the quality of the water and how that's changing over time.
Do you think that the current environment of high energy prices is helping you out, and that companies are a little bit more open to the idea of focusing on ESG and higher quality products?
I'm actually really excited about 2022. 2021, if you look at the whole of the sector, there's not as many people investing in fossil fuels as there were in the past. And so you're getting a narrower group of investors in the fossil fuel arena. But the importance of fossil fuels are becoming ever apparent, and the pricing of it is going to get quite steep if we don't begin to address additional production. So I think we're seeing more money available, but fewer people that are putting it in, that really understand how the next 10 years are going to be a very strong market, I believe, for the fossil fuel industry. The solar industry, the geothermal industry, the wind industry, all are really fantastic, and I wish them the best. But even under the best circumstances, I don't think they can get to more than 25% in aggregate of the annual energy production that's required for the U.S. or many of the other developed countries. And so we need to be dealing with fossil fuels. We need to make them greener. We need to reduce their impact on the environment. We need to address CO2. And I think as an industry, we're seeing that the senior levels take that very seriously.
You lost a couple customers last year just because of some consolidation in the group. What's the latest on trying to get those customers back?
Well, the good news is in discussions with both of them, and pretty excited about the opportunity. One customer that left some time ago over disagreement with the company before I joined And we've worked through now to where we're pretty excited. I think we'll be doing a pilot with them in the very near term that could reestablish us as one of their principal suppliers. A great company, and we look forward to working with them. The other one, we're already in the process of selling products to them again as well. So those losses were detrimental, but it's what happens in consolidation. The first thing you do, you stop everything. Then you evaluate who's doing what with who, and then you go back and ask which one's better. So we have an obligation to go in and then re-demonstrate to them that your better solution is not our competitor or another supplier, but it is our solutions, and we're doing that successfully.
Let's move on to the next division, the professional clean division. Can you just explain that division a little bit?
You bet. It sort of grew out of philanthropy in 2020. We really wanted to produce chemicals for the homeless in the very beginning of COVID and for first responders, and we used our skills and ability, and we have the FDA registration and EPA registration, so we're not really and never have been a pure oil field chemicals company. We've supplied to the food industry and to many other industries, agricultural industry. Consequently, we're registered in ways that you have to be to produce consumer products. And so we've taken advantage of that and our skills and competencies and patents, and we're producing a complete line of products, not a product, or we're not a single product. We're a portfolio of products associated with disinfecting, with detergents, with solvents, with cleaning. I mean, we're doing quite a bit of cleaning now for one of the pizza chains, and so these are biodegradable, non-toxic chemicals, and we're able to produce them. We have a bottling plant. We can bottle down to 4 ounces, but a large portion of that's going to be white labeling, where we blend for other people and they provide the formula. But if you look at the bottle and you understood the registrations, you'd know it was made by Flotek, though it won't say Flotek anywhere on the bottle. That's the big part of the business, is doing it for others. If you were at a spa in Austin, Texas today, Michael, and you picked up a bottle of hand sanitizer, there's a very high probability it would have been manufactured by us, even though the name on the label would be something else.
And obviously, I'm sure sales have done very well during the COVID concerns. What have they been doing lately?
Our sales have been lackluster, but primarily the transitioning of trying to compete as a small company with larger companies. So we had to focus quickly on the green area and ESG and differentiation, because we're not a xylene producing company. So we're not injecting things that have health hazards associated with them. We needed to stop talking just about performance, even though our performance is better than their more toxic alternatives, and convince them that it was time to really address liability as well as performance. And so it's been a year and a half of transition, and I'd say there was probably 6 months in there, 6 to 9 months, when really not a lot was going on. Another piece, which I tried to talk about during the conference call, we really needed to increase our sales force. And during COVID, and when you're losing money, the goal is not to lose more money. And so trying to time bringing on a great sales staff was hard to do. And I don't know if I got it plus or minus a quarter, but in the last couple of months, we have significantly increased our sales force, and we've got quality people that have substantial quotas and understand how to sell to companies and make a difference with regard to their value chain. And I'm excited about the people that we've brought on, both for our JP3 division, the digital division, but also for the chemistry division. ProChem is really going to be an indirect channel, so it'll just be a couple of people. And it's a little bit of marketing, because you have to sell the sales force that you're using, and we're working on that now.
Okay, and finally, let's move into the JP3, or the data analytics, which is stems from a company you picked up a little over a year ago, and I think is really probably the most exciting part of the business. You've touched on it a little bit, but give us a little more details of exactly what you're doing there.
Well, it's a transformational business that has many use cases. And so the hardest thing to do is to choose a use case and see its adoption and not try to get spread too thin trying to do too many things. But to just highlight some of them, exact same sensor, exact same measurement, here's some of the use cases. If you are in the midstream on transmix, you want to know the moment that a product changes in a batch in the pipeline. We're able to give you that data so that you can minimize the recirculation of that material and separation of it and send again. That can equal $100,000 every time there's a batch change. And so by selling them this device, you can count the number of batch changes per year, multiply it times $100,000. We've got customers saving $1 million a year by installing a single sensor. So the sales of this that's not the issue. The issue's been access to the midstream plants as a result of COVID, and it's been our absence of having an internationally certified product, which we just completed in Q3. And it took us about 18 months. When I did the acquisition, it was predicated on two things. One of those was, can we make an international product? Typical company, I'll say their names and they'll probably send me an ugly letter, but if you were a big company like Emerson or Endress or ABB or others, it's about a 3-year cycle to introduce a new product. And we were able to get the certification within 18 months. And so I'd say we're really focused, and it's a great outcome for us. And we've already been doing the business development internationally, so we'll be able to deploy these midstream opportunities throughout the Middle East and Southeast Asia and other places. The other thing is really it's just emerging too, and I think this is why 2022 is cool, is when you look at how we make the measurement, we actually provide a fingerprint for the oil. And we have a library of over 30,000 fingerprints. So think of us as the oil FBI. When we see something, we can look it up in the library and say, what we see is identical to this or very similar to that. So what people want now is to be able to fingerprint their crude and identify it with the CO2 production so that they can have a higher premium for the lowest CO2 produced crude. I think that's a market that emerges in 2022 as each of the operators look at reducing their CO2 and they go to market looking for that CO2 premium. On the upstream side, we have customers that have installed these, and you're actually able to see how the hydrocarbon molecules are getting longer or heavier, okay, while you're producing before you see water. And so the actual management of the reservoir can be impacted by understanding how the hydrocarbons are changing and the weight of the hydrocarbons and the lengths of the chains long before you actually end up with a reduction in production due to water encroachment. So how do you manage water in a reservoir as well? So a lot of great use cases, and we've been slowed down by, unlike chemistry where people sort of know what they want to use, you're actually having to get face to face with people and sell the new sensors. It's not something where they're not doing what we do now. They try to do it in other ways, or they don't do it efficiently at all. So it takes that person to person understanding of their problems, explaining what the value proposition is, and I think that's going to open up for us in 2022 as we move away from virtual fireside chats to being able to shake hands and see one another in person.
You've touched on 2022 a couple times in the conference call, talking about how things are kind of gearing up for that maybe being a good year. And we've already talked a little bit about the sales force changes and the overall environment, but anything else that's behind some of your comments that you think next year could be a good year for you?
Well, we're seeing in discussions, proper conversations with customers, how they are increasing the number of rigs they'll be using next year. And so if you take a look at a frac crew today, any one frac crew could be from $1.5 to $2 million per year of chemicals per frac crew. So when you see 10 additional frac crews, that's a lot. It can be up to $150 million worth of additional chemicals that will be required. So we're seeing additional frac crews come on. We're seeing higher volumes of chemistry. We're able to impact those. So we're going to see the rig count go up. And so the stimulation market goes up. You're going to see a tremendous increase in the Middle East. I'm very happy that we have that international arm of the company. And so if we, privately, all of our customers are discussing how they're going to increase production in 2022, and the operational activities that they are going to be involved in are conducive to us making bigger sales. I mean, I'm the piece that we probably shouldn't talk about, but when I joined the company, we had about a 50% of our quarterly sales quota or forecast was did we actually have an umbrella for, a pipeline for. Today we're at over 300%. So you can see that the pipeline's grown from 50 to 300%. I can assure you it's a lot easier to predict what your revenue is when you're 300% or 3 to 1 as opposed to a half of the forecast. It makes the uncertainty much higher. So in the last 18 months, almost 2 years, the improvement from 50% to 300%, I think, is indicative of why we're excited about where we're going in 2022.
And we saw a very nice improvement in the last quarter. Revenues up 11% quarter over quarter, making up for some of those lost customers. At the same time, if we back out the positive impact of the settlement agreement, we're still cash flow negative and earnings negative. Do you think we can get to a point next year with some of the top line growth that we can actually start talking about positive numbers?
Have every intention of getting positive numbers in 2022. That would be our number one priority, Michael. I mean, I'd say organically, we see our way to that. Inorganically, we're working quite diligently to sort of target acquisitions that can get us there faster. And so we want things that are accretive. We also want things that reinforce our green initiatives. And so if we can find those good tuck-ins that are private and would like liquidity in a market where that's harder these days, I think we'll be able to take advantage of that. It is going to mean that we're going to have to get reasonably aggressive on identifying those targets.
I was just going to ask about acquisitions. With the jump into data analytics, we've kind of broadened the scope of what the company's mission statement is. How would you define what's at the company's core, and what type of things might make sense if you were to try and expand into new areas?
Well, I think for us, our real core competence is chemistry. And so the measurement of fluids and fluids while flowing, it doesn't matter to me whether it's agriculture or pharmaceuticals or food. Or we need to be in a business where those sensors, we can build once, sell multiple verticals. And then how we address those verticals, we may need to do through partners so that we don't lose focus in our core verticals. And so, how do we develop partners that maybe take us into the agricultural industry or take us into the pharmaceuticals industry? So we're working on that. But the acquisition side, the oil industry is in the infancy in the sensorification and the measurement of everything in the industry. There's just a tremendous opportunity there for devices that measure scaling and pipeline. I met with a company yesterday to discuss, how do you address scaling? Because when you address scaling, Michael, the next thing you need to do is to come up with a treatment plan for the pipeline so that you can remove that paraffin or you can remove that scale. And so it's just a pull through for the chemicals. So the moment you understand the type of scale you have through a sensor and the volume and the rate of deposition of it, you can address that with chemistry. So now you're talking about a full solution to a client saying, we'll remove your scaling issue, improve the productivity of your pipeline, and we can do that through a combination of sensors and chemistry. Would be an example. And we're looking for all of those where we think the two things are symbiotic.
How do you feel about your balance sheet? The cash position has started to get, 20 million or so, get a little bit lower. You even hinted in the last conference call about maybe seeking some external financing. What's your latest thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly caused a stir accidentally. It wasn't my intent. It's just that, much like your question, any prudent investor would look at it and say, well, here's where their cash is. He needs to address cash, and we didn't have time to do it on the last call. So the things that I'd catch you up on the next call, and then maybe before then, is we do have numerous properties for sale that are easily, I won't say easily, but we've managed to get them leased, and so they're income producing properties now. We have one in Monahans, one in Waller. We have a rail spur in Raceland, Louisiana, all of which are very good properties. And with long-term lessees on them now, or operations that are generating profit, much easier for us to liquidate those. And they're not necessarily strategic to the company at this point. And so you look at that and go, okay, we can generate, a couple of quarters of cash from likely just from the liquidation of those properties. But in truth, when we start talking about cash, I think we're not going to have that big a difficulty getting through 2022 with cash. I feel good about the cash position and how things are emerging. It's more about revenue. What we really have to focus on is revenue growth, because having a little additional cash it doesn't solve our problem. Our real issue is revenue growth. So anytime you hear us talk, I'd rather us focus entirely on how we're going to get to free cash flow in 2022 through revenue increase than worrying about how we're going to go get cash to support a company that's not producing free cash flow. It would be where my head is and how the company's focused. We are all about revenue, profitable revenue, not revenue. Not the Saturday Night Live, you give me $1 and I give you 10 dimes. I mean, we're talking about you give me $1 and I give you 6 dimes. I mean, that is our goal for 2022.
What's the latest on your PPE loan forgiveness?
I haven't gotten an update on that. I do know that caused a bit of confusion too, because we had the option of showing part of it as short, part of it as long-term debt. But I mean, the intent's to get all of it forgiven. And so we shouldn't get the desire for forgiveness or the request for forgiveness caught up into whether or not we carried it as long or short. But I don't have a final answer on that. But the goal is to get it forgiven, as much as we did with the JP3 one.
All right. And I'd remind anyone out there listening, if they want to ask any questions, please submit them through the question box, and we'll get stuff answered a little bit. Let me see, what haven't I touched on a little bit here? Because we've talked about acquisitions, we've talked about near-term earnings a little bit. Maybe would you go in a little bit more detail, exactly jumping back to kind of some of the sales force changes that you've done over the last 12 months and go a little bit more detail of exactly what you've done and why you think that'll help sales.
I just want to, my CFO's online, believe it or not, Michael, he texted me and said, remember, it's the PPP loans. And he does expect notice back and us being able to hear by early 2022. And so it's, so that is underway, and I was correct about that. I'm glad people are always listening to me here where I can make sure I'm correct. But now in Salesforce, we had when I joined, we had a sales force that did not have a great track record in chemistry. And so we've been trying to upgrade the sales force there. And during COVID, a couple of things that we wanted. We wanted great salespeople that liked more at risk and less fixed. And so we were a company with very high fixed sales salaries and low commission rates. And so that drive to win wasn't what philosophically I feel makes great salespeople. You don't ever want to cap a great salesperson. It doesn't matter to me how much they sell, as long as we have profitability while they're selling. If all of them make more money than me, I will be delighted in 2022. So we hired people that have that capability, as opposed to hiring people that are salaried that see it as come to work 8 to 5 job. We want people that go home at night going, if I make one more call tonight, my check might be bigger this quarter. And so we've converted strategically, particularly on the chemistry side, even more so, towards more at risk, less fixed. So it's dropping our cost, and we're able to add additional salespeople. And we think it's got the right motivational factors from a compensation structure to get us excited about 2022. And I won't call any names, but maybe I'll bring a salesperson on one of these calls after they've had a great quarter and let them tell you what it's like to be a salesperson that has the quality of products that we do in a good market.
John, is there anything we haven't touched on that you want to emphasize to potential investors?
No, personally, I'd like to thank the investors. I know our share price has come down quite a bit, but our investors are really a part of our team in a lot of ways. They call me. We're in a very positive conversation. They're continuing to introduce us to people. So it feels like private equity in some ways, but it's a public company where shareholders that you would have no idea of are routinely on the phone with me, helping, encouraging, pledging support. And I tell you what, in times like these, you just can't underestimate the value of that. So thank you to our shareholders. And our employees have been incredibly loyal. We never talk about attrition rates, but ours are very low. And people believe in the company. They believe in what we're doing. They love the vision and the mission of the company. And so, I thanks to employees as well. And I look forward to new shareholders. One of the things about me is you can't talk to me. I'm easily accessible. I'm not an aloof CEO or protected by a group of people. So I talk to shareholders every quarter that range anywhere from 50,000 shares to 7 million shares. And I gain value from every one of those conversations, Michael. So thanks to our shareholders and the continued support, and we look forward to creating some value for you as we go forward.
Terrific. That's what I like to hear. Okay, well, I want to thank you for participating in this fireside chat. I hope it was good for you, as it certainly was to our investors. And hopefully we'll do this again in a little bit and have more to talk about.
Well, we'll get a really technical guy on to talk about the sensors and the sweep frequencies and with what all molecules we can measure. We've even installed one of these in our own plant where we can monitor the quality of the products that we're producing on the prochemical side. So huge use cases. Look forward to talking to you again, Michael. You're very kind. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this virtual roadshow presentation brought to you by Channel Check. View our YouTube channel for more video content, including C-suite interviews, virtual roadshows, and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and 6,000 other small and microcap companies.